This has been one of the most extraordinary weeks in the long and troubled history of the euro area crisis. Markets and media have been obsessed over the past few days about Sunday's European summit, when hints have been given some sort of solution to the crisis is supposed to emerge. The need for a solution is ever more apparent. Today we had a dismal reforecasting of the German growth outlook, plus we've had the unrest on the streets of Athens. So what might we expect from Sunday's summit? I'm going to explore this issue with my colleague Dr. Stephanie Hare, our senior Europe analyst. What's the main shape of any agreement that might emerge at the weekend, Stephanie?
There's three key points. The first is the level of Greek debt that's going to be written down and what private bondholders will be expected to bear.
Yep, the famous haircut.
That's right. This is a famous haircut. We had 21% in July. Now we're hearing something between 50 to 60%. The second is the European Bailout Fund. That is right now, we know, at 440 billion euros. This is widely accepted to be too small, so we're going to have to find out what magical trick they will use to leverage this up, or if it will be done through insurance, etc. That's a very big one that they'll still need to hammer out. The third and final one is how they're going to bolster the European banking system. We had heard recapitalization requirements up to 200 billion euros. Now that's been revised downwards to somewhere around 80 billion euros. So lots of things that they're going to have to agree and work out, and so far that agreement's not on the table yet.
It's quite easy to set them out in that fashion, and if the euro area were governed by one entity with full sovereign powers, it would be relatively easy to implement those changes and that rescue package, but it's not like that. We've got institutional, we've got national differences. How are they playing out? Where do France and Germany line up on these various issues?
Well, the Franco-German partnership is normally one of harmony and alliance. They usually agree their positions beforehand, but this week we saw France really enter the market's crosshairs properly for the first time. We've had several downgrades of French banks, important ones, and also Moody's, the credit rating agency, came out and said that it was going to be assessing the outlook for France, possibly changing this from stable to negative in 2012. This puts President Sarkozy under huge pressure. The problem, of course, is that Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, is under pressure of her own. She has a different priority, which is to protect the German taxpayer. Sarkozy is looking to protect French banks, which are hugely exposed to Greek sovereign and private debt.
Of course, the idea that the euro area crisis is going to be solved on Sunday is naive in the extreme. I suppose the realistic approach would be to what extent the main lines of an agreement could emerge that would allow some comfort for markets, some comfort for those involved. The details to be filled in a little bit later. We've got G20 coming up too, haven't we?
That's right. November is going to be a very interesting month because Mario Draghi takes over as the president of the ECB. We know that the ECB at the moment is against leveraging up the bailout fund or taking on any greater debt position. So it's aligned with Germany on this one. So it'll be very interesting to see what Draghi's position is on this. Also, though, as you said, we've got the G20 meeting on November 3rd and 4th. So the European leaders are really going to be under a tremendous amount of pressure to take a solution to their global counterparts then.
It has been excruciating from an analyst point of view to follow this dispute, as you can well testify. No less so, of course, than it has been for the people more directly involved. But I think perhaps we shouldn't resort immediately to a council of despair here. A solution will be found, and what's going to concentrate minds increasingly, of course, are the kind of pictures that have been unfolding on the streets of Athens and other Greek cities, where the unrest is serious and where there's a profound sense of dismay, which we've seen echoed too, haven't we, in the various so-called Occupy Wall Street type movements. That's going to play on the minds of Merkel, of Sarkozy and others.
That's true. I mean, the pictures we're seeing out of Greece at the moment are very dramatic, and I think likely to intensify if a solution is not presented that's credible. Credibility is going to be this key issue. And we also have to remember that the trade unions in Portugal have also signaled an intention to have protests in November. Yep. So there's the potential for this to explode across Europe. I think this will concentrate minds of policymakers.
And also produce, hopefully, some ingenuity in terms of leadership and solution, because that's certainly necessary.
That's right. Now, today we had obviously the shock announcement of the revised growth figures for Germany, but across the Mediterranean we had an even more shocking development.
That's right. We had the so far unconfirmed reports, at least as we speak, that Gaddafi had been captured and very possibly killed, which, if true, of course, is going to be a terrific boost for the newly installed TNC in Tripoli. And there were scenes of, as we left the office, there were scenes of jubilation across the streets of Tripoli over this. And it raises questions also, I suppose, that will be mulled over quite seriously at NATO, who've convened a meeting already, I understand, to consider the implications of this, because we've had regime change in Libya and we appear to have had the demise of the previous incumbent. So there's a kind of symmetry at work here. The immediate effect for the TNC will be good, but there's lots of lessons to ponder over there in future. Thanks a lot, Stephanie, and thank you for watching, and do look out for further analysis of the euro area crisis, naturally enough, and also what the demise of Gaddafi, if that's what it turns out to be, means for Libya and for the wider North African region, which is very much in our minds at the moment as we turn our attention to the first of the post-Arab upheaval elections, which takes place on Sunday in Tunisia. For the time being, thanks very much.